Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 2269A, and today's date is September 6th, 2020, and the title of the episode is, Get Ready, the Economy is About to Change, so it benefits the people. Let's talk about retirement. You know, life has never looked so uncertain as it does right now. Across the U.S., people have been paralyzed into indecision, humming and hawing about everything, feeling flustered and shutting down, avoiding that issue, the money one. But bleak as it might look, there may be a silver or even a gold lining. If you worked for years before COVID, you could have had a 401k sitting around gathering dust, or even an old IRA we could help with. Working for your old company when it could be working for you. We're not talking peanuts either. Some plans have thousands of dollars in them. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, we know the Fiat system, which is created by the central bank. We know that the Fiat system, it's not slated to last forever. Normally, the Fiat system, controlled by the central bank, created by the central bank, backed by nothing, it only lasts between 40 and 50 years. We are at the end of that cycle right now. And the economy across the world, it is reaching credit exhaustion, with record amounts of government and corporate debt relative to GDP worldwide. The debt burden ensures weak future real economic growth. Now, Trump, the Patriots, they already knew this. They knew this when they were coming into office. They knew the central bank system was imploding on itself, and they knew that they only had a certain period of time to create and build a sustainable people's economy. Why did they have to do this? Well, they understood and they knew that the rest of the world, their entire central bank economic system was completely falling apart. And if you look at the rest of the world, most of the world is in negative interest rates. Most of the world is pushing stimulus like there's no tomorrow. A lot of countries are taking on a lot more debt. Yes, the U.S. is taking on a lot more debt because this is how the central bank system is run. It's run on debt, period. And when Trump and the Patriots came into office, they knew that they only had a certain period of time because the plan of the central bankers, the plan of the deep state, was to bury this economic system through an event to cover it up. They knew that they couldn't allow this to be seen by the people, because if people knew that they were responsible for this, the people would never want another central bank economic system. And that has been robbed from them. They no longer are in control. They don't have an event. Yes, they can blame COVID. Yes, they can say this is why we're heading into a recession. But when you look through the data, when you look at what has been happening prior to COVID, the entire central bank system has been collapsing for quite a while. And if you look at GDP across the world, it was in a downward trajectory. It was not moving up. Things weren't getting better. Because if that was true, and the central bank global economy was getting better, they wouldn't have to go to negative interest rates. They wouldn't have to have stimulus across the globe. They wouldn't have to keep every single country in debt, telling them you must push austerity on the people. They would need none of that if the economy was doing fine and it was recovering. But what they did was they created an illusion. They told you it was recovering. They told you that it was much better than it really was. Oh, and this negative interest rate and the stimulus, that's just temporary. We'll be getting rid of that very, very soon. Now, have they gotten rid of it? No. They were trying to get rid of it when Trump came into office because they were going to raise rates, stop stimulus, unwind their balance sheet, and say, see, we were able to do it, and because of Trump, this is why the economic system fell apart. Now they don't have that excuse because it never happened. They weren't able to unwind their balance sheet. They weren't able to raise interest rates. And they weren't able to shut off stimulus. So now, what is the central bank left to do? They have to lower rates. They need more stimulus. They need to push more debt out there. And as they do this, the world sees this. The world sees that the central bank is not operating the way it's supposed to, the way they told us, actually, where they were going to keep an eye on everything, make the economy great, make it helpful for the people. It has not worked. And because of all this, and because of what everyone is seeing, what is happening right now? Precious metals is continually moving up. Yes, there are times when precious metals are suppressed, where they push it down to convince everyone that nothing's happening here. We've seen this in the past. It's nothing new. Let's talk about retirement. You know, if you work for a company for years before COVID came along and they let you go, you might have left some treasure behind. Your old 401k or IRA could be worth thousands, and it's still working for your old firm, not you. But over time, what happens? As the central bank continually prints through stimulus, as they continually lower rates, precious metals rise, which means the dollar is losing value. Currencies across the globe are losing value as the countries continually take on more debt. This is not a sustainable system. When Trump, the Patriots, came into office, a lot of people thought, oh, Trump's going to come into office, boom, the central bank will be removed and everything will be fine. We'll no longer be under the central bank, and we will no longer be in a manipulated economy. Why couldn't he do that? Why couldn't he just come in and remove all of that? Because there was no foundation. The deep state, the central bank, they removed that portion of the economy. They shipped it overseas. Trump, the Patriots, they looked at the entire situation and they realized, if we just detach ourselves from the central bank, if we just do that right now with all the regulations in place, with these terrible trade deals, with all of this stuff, the entire economic system would implode. People would get hurt. It would be a disaster. Credit would freeze up. It would be awful. So what did they have to do? They needed to rebuild. They needed to create what was once there. And they were able to do it with lightning speed. Yes, we have chaos. We have the pandemic. We have riots. But out of chaos, you receive, not we, but the Trump administration received powers that he didn't have before. And with these powers, he's able to do quite a bit. Actually, he's able to turn the focus on China and show the world why the supply chains are not sustainable if we left them with China, if there is a major disaster. And like I said before, I do believe that Xi, Putin, and others are all working together to go after the central bank, because this has to be a coordinated effort. And Trump went ahead and started to rebuild the economy. He started to rip everything apart, take away the power from the globalists, from the central bank. And by doing this, he had additional power. Now, did Wall Street like this? No. Did the globalists like this? No. Did the central bank like this? No. They realize what's coming and they're panicking because they understand when he gets his way, it's game over for them. So they're going to do everything they possibly can until the very end to stop Trump from what he's doing, because they understand as he continually rips apart this entire system, it leaves them out in the open. It brings them out of the shadows into the light, and people will see exactly what these individuals are all about and what they're capable of. And he understands that moving forward, he needs to do this very, very quickly, because the entire global economic system under the central bank system, it is rapidly falling apart. And this is why we see certain things in place. This is why we see the deregulation. This is why we see trade deals being completely reworked. This is why there's pressure on the EU to drop their tariffs on the United States. This is why there's pressure on China. And this is why Trump, during this chaos, was able to have the stimulus money go to the people. Now, there's additional stimulus money that is in Congress being held up right now. He needs this money to keep small businesses, people afloat long enough. Remember, going through a transition from one system to another, it's a very bumpy ride. And to smooth things over, this is one of the first steps, is to allow people to survive. Now, yes, this money is being used because we were artificially shut down. But because we were artificially shut down, he was able to do many other things. Bring pharmaceutical manufacturing back to the United States. Deregulate to help certain businesses in certain sectors within the country. He was able to bring back manufacturing for testing, ventilators, and much more. He was able to break up the supply chains in China. He was able to bring the troops home from the Middle East, wind down the endless wars. Those endless wars were attached to the petrodollar, because when we detach from the petrodollar, we need to be self-reliant. This is why there's drilling in Alaska now. This is why he made the country completely energy independent, because we couldn't depend on the Middle East anymore. This is why we needed fair trade deals. All of this is in preparation for what is coming. And this is why he continually says, yes, leading up to the elections, the economy is going to improve. But after the elections, we're going to see an economy like we've never seen before. The economy is going to be doing so great, it's going to be unbelievable. And at each step, he's been preparing for this transition. And remember, it's about restructuring the Fed. It's about going back to sound money. It's about having fair trade deals with other countries. It's about not having the U.S. pay for the World Health Organization, the World Trade Organization, for NATO, because at this point in time, the United States will not be able to do what it used to do, where behind the scenes, they would just create currency out of thin air and just pay for all this stuff. If there's checks and balances, is this possible anymore? No, it is not. This is why all of this has to be completely undone for the country to move forward. And this is why he's rapidly doing this. And we're going to see a lot more leading up to 2021. And we're going to see a lot more deregulation. We're going to see a lot more tax holidays. We're going to see things that we've never seen before. And once the infrastructure bill is passed and put online, we're going to see a country like we've never seen. And the central bank, the elites, the globalists, this is what they're most afraid of. They don't want the rest of the world to see a country doing well, a country that can operate outside of the central bank system, a country that can flourish and become prosperous without the central bank, with no debt. And people are not in debt, and people aren't paying taxes the way they're paying taxes now. This scenario to them is a nightmare, because once it takes hold, there's no stopping it. Just like the United States, when it came into existence, where there was a constitution, other countries started to move in the same direction. The United States, once the United States shows the rest of the world what it's like to be without a central bank, and how prosperous your country can be, and how you don't need austerity, and how you don't need to be in debt, do you think other countries are going to follow? Of course they are. That's where we're all headed. Trump has been preparing for this moment, and we're almost there. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.